Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I am out traveling. I'm in Iowa right now, so I'm trying to check with all the Iowa fans this week to find out, are you still mad about the fair catch? But you know what? Today's show is not about that. We are sitting down with a guy that was a part of that game, Darius Taylor. Darius Taylor Jr. He's the running back for the Golden Gophers. He's one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. He's going to sit down with us in the Hanging Around Johnson segment and stick around for the Daily Three because he does a little special Daily Three with us as well. But at the top of the hour, we have to talk about, yes, the Vikings. There's another situation. We'll talk about all that and much more coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, good people. I'm Ron Johnson. Hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you're watching from. For those watching on YouTube, we thank you. Make sure you subscribe, though, and tell a friend that we are here. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm your host, Ron Johnson, former Gophers wide receiver, Gophers Hall of Famer, and NFL wide receiver as well. And my producer is Sam Ekstrom. Sam's going to come in the show in a minute, but I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Just make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. Sports are they're not sporting like they used to. The playoffs aren't playoffing like they should. And the games aren't gaming like we thought they would be this time of year. But FanDuel still has something for those that are heavily invested in a lot of these sports that are going on right now. You got baseball. It's a ton of baseball. Make sure you go on there every day. There's a daily boost or bonus for every customer daily. A boost or a bonus for every customer daily. You just have to go into the app and you'll find out how. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, you have to go to FanDuel.com to get started. Make sure you go in the app every day. There's a daily boost or bonus. You're not going to want to miss that. Well, in today's show, as I kind of tease, we're going to talk about Jordan Addison. Now, we do have Darius Taylor coming up in the Hanging Around Johnson segment. We are going to have a Daily 3 with with Darius Taylor. But we got to talk about Jordan Addison. As I bring my producer to the show, Sam Ekstrom, for those that don't know, now the reports have to come out. It's not guaranteed just yet. All stories have to have an end. We have to get the thing. But he was arrested on suspicion of a DUI. So under the influence of something. And again, it doesn't say alcohol. So let's make sure first until we get all the information. At least I haven't seen anything yet breaking. Maybe Sam does. But influence. So means it could be anything. It could be something a doctor gave him. We know the Tiger Woods situation happened where he was driving under the influence. Come to find out, he had took the wrong meds or too many of his meds because he was on pain medication. So we know guys do a lot of things to self-medicate. We do know a lot of guys do a lot of things. Could be marijuana. Again, you cannot drive under the influence of marijuana. But my issue with Jordan Addison, before I kick it over to you, Sam, is you just had a player, Kyrie Jackson, lose his life to a driver that was suspected to be drunk. Now, again, that case is still open. That information is still going to come forward. But to just have a teammate pass away and be killed in a car crash, I just feel like it's very negligent and it's very selfish. And like, how do you not learn from what you just saw to then go out, get behind the wheel? Again, the story's going to come out. We know before he was speedy. And there's the problem. One time, you're like, okay. 2 times, you're like, wait a minute, what? 3rd time, you're out of here. And so Jordan Addison, for those that don't know, on his social media now, he's taking down a lot of Vikings stuff off of his page. One, could be just a kid throwing a tantrum because the team might have levied some type of punishment to him that we don't know about yet. Maybe they reached out to him and said, hey, George, heads up, you're going to be suspended for this, or maybe you're going to pay a fine for this, or that's against detrimental to team, rules or whatever, how they do it. Whatever it might be, something wanted him. Maybe it's like, hey, I don't want people searching my name right now to see the Viking stuff on my page because I want to disconnect myself from the Vikings because I'm going through this legal battle now of this arrest. For whatever reason, people are going back to the Stephon Diggs era of like deleting all this stuff, wanting to get out of Minnesota. I don't think Jordan Addison wants to get out of Minnesota. I hope that it's I'm trying to separate myself from the Vikings so that as people are searching my name right now, it just says Jordan Addison. My Instagram is just me. I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't know. But again, kids do weird stuff. It's not like people don't know you play for the Vikings. So taking down stuff from your Instagram page means nothing. But again, maybe it is something the team said to him after this happened, and he's just not happy. And that's his way of like disconnecting. But again, I say it's selfish. It's negligent. It's irresponsible. And to have a teammate just pass away from a drunk driver, potential drunk driver, we don't know. I just don't understand the reasoning for it. When you are a first round draft pick, it would cost you maybe at the most $200 to $300 to get a car service home from as far as you're away. Usually, Ubers are $50, $60, $100 for a black car. Like, there's too much technology out there to be putting yourself in that situation where you could have killed somebody yourself. But I don't know, Sam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, now that we've got 2 instances of Jordan making bad decisions behind the wheel, I guess it makes you think, are there other instances where he wasn't caught, right? Like, these are the 2 instances we know about. What else is he doing? What else has happened that we just don't know about? And is this a habit for him? Is this an issue for him? Because I'm sure Kevin O'Connell, the last 2 summers, has given them the speech. Guys, stay out of trouble. Always get a ride. Make good decisions because you're representing yourself. You're representing the team. We don't want you to, lose your paychecks because of a suspension. And that's probably what's going to happen now. I mean, Jordan Addison's going to lose credibility. He's going to lose money. He's going to miss a game or more. We don't know the length of the suspension, but I'm sure the league will levy something. So now it's not really a 3-strike rule in the NFL. It's less than that. Like, you get 1 or 2 strikes, and like now he is squarely like on the radar as someone that you have to worry a little bit about, and that's unfortunate. And he's got a lot more work to do now to, I think, build back his credibility than he did last year, when I think people forgave him pretty fast once the season started. But now it's going to take a little more work.
And we've had Chris Carter on the show numerous times, and so I remember he talked about his stuff when he was in Philly. He got, I don't know if it was drugs or alcohol or what, but he said he kind of changed his life. That's why he doesn't drink. That's why he doesn't do drugs anymore. That's why he doesn't do anything. Like, he's like, he doesn't even party really. He talked about the second chance, leaving Philly, coming to Minnesota, and Denny Green taking a chance on him. He's like, you know what? When Denny decided to take a chance on me, I never wanted to let him down. And I wanted to make sure he knew that life was behind me. I was not that Chris Carter anymore. I was not that self-serving, selfish person anymore. And he changed his life around, and he's a Hall of Famer now. And that's my hope for Jordan Addison, that he realizes, like, self-medicating, whatever it might be, like, even if it is, I'm just going to have a drink or 2, but I'm going to make sure I have a car service or a driver. That's the stuff that, you have enough money to do that. Like, and so that's the thing where some people, and not say anybody should do it, but some people make that decision because they can't afford that. They go out, they're stranded somewhere, not stranded, but they've been drinking and they have their car, and they make a horrible decision because they feel like, I can't afford a hotel. I can't afford. And they make a horrible decision, and whether it's kill somebody, whether it's, lose points of your license and your insurance and lose your car, and your next car payment is high. And now you get, like, it can really change your life. But at the end of the day, the biggest issue is you can kill yourself and you can kill somebody else. And that's what they always see, like, drunk drivers, they're the ones. And this is what's crazy, Sam. Remember when KJ Osborne saved the dude from the burning car?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you know that story. So that's Nelson Thomas. He's on MTV. He used to be on MTV shows, like doing a lot of the road rules versus, the challenge. And he's known for that. Well, now as I'm reading into the story, and again, his whole story hasn't come out, but people are commenting now on it because he's now, he lost his leg. I don't know if you knew that. He lost his leg in the accident. So he had his leg amputated like a couple weeks ago, probably because of, like, the injury never really healed. He was losing, blood flow. So they're like, look, in order to save your life, you need to lose your leg. And so he lost his leg. And then people were like commenting now, like, man, I don't have sympathy for a drunk driver. So allegedly he was drunk and he got into an accident, which set his car on fire and he almost died. KJ Osborne saved his life. So you have one Viking die in a car, Gladney. You have another Viking save a guy in a car. Then you have another Viking die in a car, and now you have this Viking DUI in a car. Like, it's just, you have to learn. Those that don't know their history are doomed to repeat it, and that's so tough for me to watch a young guy. And I've reached out to the Vikings. I've talked to, I'm not gonna say the names, but I've talked to a guy who does a lot of their stuff. within the organization. One name I can say, because I know he's okay with Les Pico. He's the player development guy. And I've told him, like, hey, I would love myself and Rachel Baribeau. She's been on our show. She's helped out the SEC and Georgia and the Gophers. She's reached out as well to me and said, hey, let's connect with Les Pico and let's go meet with these players this training camp. And so we have done that. We reached out to him, and I hope he does take advantage of it. He said he's not the guy that sets that stuff up because they do have internal people that need to vet people and make sure the people come to their building or who they say they are, and they're not going to, bring a crazy message to the team. But I'm hoping at some point they do utilize it, because I think some guys need to hear from a guy that looks like them and sounds like them, because there's only so much a doctor can tell you, and you're going to be like, man, this dude is a doctor. Like, of course he's going to feel this way. Like, I want to be able to, because again, I'm around. Like, it's not like you're flying me in and paying for me and putting me up in a hotel. I just want to be able to tell the guys what I've been through, what I've seen, and what can happen. Because Jordan Addison is like a second-year guy. We keep forgetting that he's young. But to be where he's at, it's so tough to see him possibly throw it all away. Where, like you said, this could be, who knows how long the suspension could be. Hopefully not long. But if it's another time, maybe it's then a ban. Like, hey, you're banned for the year, man. Like, and then again, it's like, okay, you're out the league. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to see somebody's career thrown away for something that crazy. But it's funny we talk about that, doing the right things, learning the right stuff. Darius Taylor talks about PJ Fleck and what he had to learn from his dad. Had an incident where a guy and he got into an argument. They both pulled out guns. The guy loses his life. He tries to go to court and say self-defense. For some reason, the judges didn't believe him because he was on the run. He was on the run for 2 years. Like, after the incident happened, he was on the run for 2 years. 2011, they found him. He went to court, ended up going to jail in 2012. And so, again, better lawyers, maybe self-defense works. He couldn't afford a better lawyer. He's still appealing and doing some other stuff because, like, both guys did have a gun. So he feels like it should have been self-defense. My other question, though, is Darius Taylor's learned from this. Or, sorry, my response to that is Darius Taylor's learned from this. He's learned, like, you have to do the right things because your life can change in a moment. You can't put yourself in certain situations and be places where that can even happen, because that can happen. And so PJ Fleck's been a big proponent of that. And coming up next, we're going to sit down with Darius Taylor, Gophers running back, talk about that, EA Sports, and all much more. We'll do that after word from our sponsors.
And we're brought to you today by FanDuel. Ron is coming to you from Iowa, so he's in a FanDuel state. And even though the sports aren't sporting the way we want them to, the playoffs have wound down. All-Star break right now. Fewer sports going on. There are still some sports. You got the British Open, or the Open Championship, coming up this weekend, a personal favorite of mine. Golf offers great value. That's what I would be wagering on if I was in Iowa like Ron, and I would use their daily booster bonus. That's right. All customers, not just new customers, all customers right now through FanDuel hooked up with a daily boost or bonus. So there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Head to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer at FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Hey, everybody. Well, like I said, I got a special guest joining me today in the Hanger Ron Johnson segment. That's, of course, always got to wear the Gophers gear when I got Gophers joining me. And this one is special because this kid is from where I'm from. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. This kid is from the state of Michigan as well. He picked Minnesota. I picked Minnesota. Tony Dungy picked Minnesota. So there's got to be – Marion Barber's dad came from Detroit and picked Minnesota. So there's got to be something to it. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring in Darius Taylor, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten, going to be one of the best backs in Gophers history. And we know if you do right by the Gophers fans, they'll do right by you. I'm 44 years old. I came here in 1998. I'm old. In 1998. And I came back, met my wife. I'm still here. Darius, what year were you born? I always love to because when I think about that, 1998, when I came here, what year were you born?
I was born in 2005.
Oh, my God. So 2005, I remember that well. I was leaving the Ravens. I was going to the Bears. Yeah. Oh, man. You were just being born. And so now Darius Taylor's here with the University of Minnesota. Darius, I want to jump out there first, man. Like, coming out of Detroit, for me, I picked Minnesota for a few reasons. One, like, because I wasn't originally, like, I was planning on going somewhere else. I had, like, Penn State and Michigan State were kind of my top two until I actually got I got to sit down with Nick Saban. And this is back, that's how old I am. Nick Saban was the coach at Michigan State. I don't even know if you knew that. But Michigan State had Nick Saban, and I met him. He was cool, but I just didn't feel like that was a guy I wanted to play for. Ended up Tony Dungy reached out to my dad. He played at Minnesota. He said, Ron, check out Minnesota. Him and my dad were teammates with the Steelers. So I got a lot of the Steelers gear behind me. And of course, his jersey behind me. But Tony Dungy calls me. I take the visit, and I kind of fall in love with the campus. What drew you to Minnesota?
The biggest thing was just the energy. Coach Fleck always has high energy, always has a smile on his face, always bringing bright. So that was the biggest thing. That's something that I kind of strive to be. Always the light in the room, energy, ready to go at all times. And then the second thing was, I mean, it's pretty close to home. Like now with the city feel and all that stuff. So it didn't feel very much different for me. So I thought, why not? It was a great opportunity to possibly play as a freshman. So that was some of the biggest things.
Yeah, and everybody always asks me because they're like, man, it's cold. I'm like, yeah, but Michigan gets snow too. Like, it's not like the snow is something totally different from what the state of Michigan has. But when you look at like Michigan as a whole, as a late, like, you know, you look at Will Johnson at the University of Michigan. You look at Dante Moore, went to UCLA, now at Oregon. Michigan has pulled out some, I don't know if you saw this stat recently, not the state, because Texas, California, Florida, they kind of dominate the NFL, but cities, Sauce Gardner, Avonte Maddox, Ambry Thomas. I know you know those names. They all went to Martin Luther King High School. Donovan Peoples-Jones went to Cass Tech. They have the most, I don't know if you saw this, the most NFL guys in a city. And now you have an opportunity in a couple of years to be one of those guys, man. What does that feel like as you see like the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan now kind of being put on the map because of guys like Sauce Gardner and Avonte Maddox and Ambry Thomas going to the Super Bowl?
I think that stuff's cool. I feel like Detroit does a good job of we kind of like feed our guys into college with like the Sound Mind, Sound Body programs, the Rising Stars programs. I feel like those things are kind of what sets us apart from all the other states or cities and states, just because we kind of have those programs to kind of feed us into and teach us the landscape in itself.
And when you think about Sound Mind, Sound Body, now that's how old I am. Kurt Blackwell, which I know who you know that is, started Sound Mind. He was my high school teammate. So I'm that old. But Kurt was way older than me. He was 2 years older than me. Okay. I was a sophomore when we went to state with him. He was a senior linebacker, outside linebacker. He ended up going to Hampton. But he was, because he ended up being my roommate when we went to state. We went to stay at like Sterling Heights Stevenson to play Sterling Heights Stevenson High School. And I remember being in a hotel, and Kurt was one of my, because we had four guys. You know how it is in Detroit. We had four guys to a room. We couldn't afford just everybody get a bed. So it was four guys to a room. One guy had a cot. One guy had the couch. Two guys got the bed. I was a sophomore, so of course I had to get the cot. I didn't get the bed, but Kurt was one of my teammates. And so when you think about Sound Mind, Sound Body, and the exposure you get with all those colleges showing up, man, like how did you really just try to say like, because I see kids now, like we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to say, here's my first 16 or here's my, like we only had 5. We kept it to 5 when I was growing up. You had a bunch of letters, or you got all this, because we didn't have emails and text messaging and all that. We got actual pieces of paper in the mail, and then you could write them back or give them a phone call. But we kind of picked 5 early, and then that was the 5 we kind of stuck with going to visit. There were some unofficial visits, but how did you kind of hone in on the 4 to 5 schools that you really wanted to be at?
I'd say I kind of knew where I wanted to be, just on a geography landscape of like I wanted to be in the Midwest. It's a style of football that we play up here. Yeah. And then obviously it's the Big Ten. That's just all the schools up here. So I knew that I wanted to most likely be in the Big Ten. So the schools I was looking at were Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. It's kind of just what they were. And then I kind of just literally went to all of them and just looked at the small things, because I mean every Big Ten school is a great school academically. You're gonna play good football no matter where you go. So it was really the small things like the people and things like the area or just housing, just the small things that I would like to have. So that was like the biggest things that I was looking at.
Yeah, and when you look at where you are now, so you're in Minnesota, you're having a great freshman season, injury hits, and I know PJ talks to you guys about response and how do you failure is growth. But when you're having the season you're having, and I think it was the Northwestern game you got hurt, because I remember watching the game and you didn't go back in. I'm like, something's not right. I'm like, there's a reason he's not in the game.
It was.
What was that like? How did you kind of transition from, okay, I'm not going back in? Because I mean, I don't know if you've watched quarterback on Netflix, or you watch receiver on Netflix. I just watched receiver, and all the receivers got hurt except for the tight end. And they each had like a different response or different, tough times, like having the camera with them. What was going through your mind in that moment? And then how did you kind of like make sure you stayed dialed in so that when you were clear to come back and play?
I'd say the biggest thing that I struggled with was just right away, like during the game, not being able to go back in and help.
Yeah.
Or just do anything about the rest of the game, have no control. I struggle with things like that, like not being able to go back in. And the other thing was being patient and understanding like that I have to take care of my body. That's another thing.
Yep.
Being patient with the actual like rehab process and figuring out the things that my body specifically needs.
Yep.
And the things that I need to do for myself just to stay healthy when I do come back. So that was probably the biggest and hardest thing that I was going through in that time.
Yeah, and going through that season, like I said, you guys had some ups and some downs. You had some games you probably thought you were going to win, and then of course we know the Northwestern outcome, one of the craziest, I guess, finishes if you want to call it. I talked to Tyler Newbin, came on the show as well. I think right either after that or around that time, and he kind of talked about that. I think it was after, because he talked about that moment, like here's what happened. I know I should have done this. I know I got a little greedy on this and blah blah. We had him on the PJ Flex show as well, and he talked about it. When you talk about response, because I know PJ tells you guys that, what when you think about like your how or your response or how you're going to deal with tough times, what are some things you try to talk yourself through to make sure like I know I'm coming out on the other end of this tunnel?
Really the main thing and the one thing that I think of when I'm going through tougher times is just perspective. Coach Fleck talks to me specifically a lot about perspective.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with like small things in the grand scheme of everything.
Yeah.
So perspective, like there's kids in the children's hospital that we go see and work with all the time, and they're going through stuff that's way harder than just a hamstring tear or something as small as even a broken arm is way smaller than the things that they're going through. Not that I'm going through that, but like they're going through things that are just way bigger than anything that could be related to football.
Right.
And they're fighting for their lives, and this is all just a game at the end of everything. So that's the biggest thing, is keeping everything honed in perspective.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think that's a great word for any high school kids, because a lot of high school kids struggle with, am I getting recruited? Why is this school not reaching out to me? I wish I can go to the Big Ten, or I want to go here, and they struggle with that. But when you talk about the change in the landscape of college sports, now I've seen you do some social media stuff now, some commercials with companies. I've seen you with IFA now. Did you ever think, like years ago, because this wasn't really a thing yet, did you ever think in college you would be starting to talk to companies and doing commercials?
Never. Growing up, I just always thought and always like would talk to my parents about like you can't really make any money as a college athlete. You can't have a job and things like that. So like that's kind of like how I was growing up. And then right at the end of my high school career, obviously that's when the NIL started to pick up and things of that nature. So I kind of had a little bit of time to learn and kind of understand the landscape before I even got here. And then it's really been a learning process as I've gone on since jumping into this landscape of like things to do, things not to do, understanding just business things. Because I mean, I feel like this landscape is causing like kids, I'm still a kid, like to have to grow up way faster and like making those adult decisions, business decisions.
Yep.
You usually don't make those until you're 25 plus or right out of college. So it's different things that like different decisions that kids are making that can be catastrophic that they're maybe not educated on. So it's something that like I've been working with coaches like Coach Fleck very closely and IFA and my family to make the right decisions financially and also just in PR relations, like things that I should and shouldn't do and how do I help the community? How do I do those certain things? So the landscape has caused me to like kind of have to grow up even faster.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing to in certain situations because of decisions that young guys have to make. And I think it could put some guys in bad situations, but I feel like once everybody understands the landscape and somebody's educating the athletes, I feel like it'll be all good.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's a wise word Because if you think about it, like I was 21 when I went to the NFL. It doesn't change. Like you're never prepared to get paid. Honestly, like it like even though we knew, like, yep, we're going to the draft, and I was one of the top 32 players that got to take the visits, and I got to talk to different teams, and I ended up being the a top 10 receiver taken in the draft, and blah blah. But you just don't know. And I remember we were at the rookie year in the NFL down at the Rose Bowl in California, and Clinton Portis walks in, and the first adult decision we all had to make as a group was we were 21. Clinton was not, because he left early, and he had to wear we had to wear wristbands around him so that when we all went to bars and we went to these events, they knew here's the players that are 21 and here's the player that is 20. Now we all know 20-year-olds are going to have a drink every once in a while. There was buses taking us. We weren't driving. But still, in that moment, we all had to kind of say, like, man, you forget that this guy is 20 and we're 20. Like we all showed up thinking we're adults and we got jobs now. We're NFL players. And then a lady comes in and literally makes, reminds us, hey, he's still underage. You got to, And so the money, like, because we all got paid for being down there by EA Sports. We got paid by, I forgot the car, Tops, I think was the car company back then. And so we got paid. And so that's one of the things you have to figure out. But speaking of getting paid for being down there with EA Sports, you're now in a video game. I've seen the videos now on Instagram and Twitter. I've seen people early release, because Spice Adams, he was one of the guys that got the game early. His son's been playing it, so he sent me some videos of his son playing. I need to text him and tell him play Penn State, Minnesota, and just put it on simulation and see what happens. We're going to win. But he's been playing it. I saw LeBron playing it. But I saw some people starting to post, here's the Gophers opening. Here's the stadium. Here's Darius Taylor in his offense. How does that feel, man, to be in a video game now? Because when I played, we were in it, but then it went away. And I think 2014 was the last time college football even did that, because they realized we're not paying these players and we're making a ton of money off of them. Now you guys can get paid. Now you guys can opt into the game. First, did you have any hesitation about putting yourself in the game?
Not really. I feel like that's just something I'll be able to tell that's another thing to put on my resume, to tell my grandkids and my family down the line, like, I was in this video game. They'll be able to look back on it. I just feel like that's a major accomplishment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just for me and my family, just kind of like putting my family on the map. So I'm in a video game. That's something that I don't think anyone in my family has done. So I think that's really cool. And I feel like it also gives you opportunity to just experience something new. Most people in this world don't get to play a video game with literally themselves in the game playing. So I mean, that's really cool, and I'm really excited. The clips look really nice. With the opt-in, we do.
But you're in the game, so did you get it early? Since you opted in, did they send you guys, like, did you guys get a pre-early EA Sports package of the game, or what did they do for you guys? I know money was involved, but
yeah, the money, and then we also get we get like a code for the game. Early access. So
have you already been playing it?
Nah, we'll be able to start playing it tomorrow.
All right. So you're playing with, because I know you guys are going to play with each other, against each other. How do you guys decide who's going to be Minnesota, or is there a different team you're going to use?
I'm probably going to use either Minnesota or probably Oregon.
Okay. Why Oregon?
Just the higher pace offense, honestly.
Okay.
Like, just like the throwing the ball. Maybe pretty much all the West Coast teams, like Utah, because they're just gonna throw the ball. So they'll probably have a bigger passing attack, different plays. So it'll all be based on. It's not really the team. It's kind of going to be based on really the playbook and the things that they can do in the game. But with us, everybody knows that I'm just going to be running the ball with me. So I'm gonna have 400 yards on the ground. So
you're the guy that just wants to run the same play over again and just like really just try to grind somebody out.
Yeah, if it's not broken, why fix it? So.
And are you playing with your boys back home? Like, do you go online and play with your boys back home or at other schools?
Oh yeah, definitely. So pretty much all the guys I was playing with in high school, I still play with to this day.
Okay.
So that'll be fun, definitely, because those guys back home are gonna be trying to play with me as well. Like, that's what they're excited for. Like, they've all been saying like they're excited to be playing with me on the game. So that's cool.
Yeah, man. And when you think about this, like, so you got the game, you got all the stuff in there. Is there anything like, because I know there's other stuff you can do with EA Sports. You can go down there, they can use your body, they can get your celebrations, they can. Is there anything moving forward? Because I know IFA is big in that too, and trying to make sure guys are maximizing their potential. Is there anything with video games or with EA Sports that you would like to go deeper and do with them or try to be involved in?
I would like to go in and do that stuff. I think it'd just be cool. Not even for a monetary situation. I think that it would
Yeah.
just be a good experience and a cool experience to get into the office and just get to see how they do things and all the like the behind the scenes of all the stuff. So I think it'd be cool to do that, definitely.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about this later in the Daily Three. I kind of left this team. I'm going to leave this team out of the Daily Three on purpose because I want to ask you now. You're going back to the big house. I remember I had it circled because Lynn Swan, we were on ABC. It was a primetime game on ABC. Lynn Swan was the sideline reporter. He was my dad's teammate, Hall of Fame receiver with the Steelers. And so it was a lot. My family was all coming, my cousins. I think I had like 20-something tickets. Larry Foote, who I played against in high school at Persian High School. He played in Michigan. Cato June, who I knew. Todd Howard, I knew. And so all the, David Terrell was on the other side. Braylon Edwards, who was from this. He didn't play back then. He was a freshman, but he was on the team. But he went to Martin Luther King High School. What are you looking forward to going back to play against Michigan?
I say the biggest thing is playing in front of my family.
Okay.
Once again, just like the bowl game, I'll probably have a lot of people there, to be honest. It's just cool to be able to have pretty much my whole family there. People who aren't able to make the trip to Minnesota to see games or make the trips to the other schools. It's kind of right in their backyard, easy drive up to Ann Arbor. So I think it'll be cool just for the family to be able to be there. And then obviously the nostalgia of just playing against Michigan is always cool, especially because I grew up watching Michigan and Michigan State. Those two schools are just always cool to play.
Yeah, and my cousin is Makari Page. He's a safety, number 7. So he went to West Bloomfield High School. And I know they have the turnover buffs because I've talked to him about that. Are you going to put on the bus when you score a touchdown in Michigan?
Probably, honestly. It's kind of mandatory.
And when you put it, because I knew what they were right away when you put them on. But did some of your teammates or because I knew people, I guess your teammates know about the turnover buffs with Michigan, but when you put them on, was there anybody like trainers, teammates, maybe fans that didn't really understand, or the media that didn't understand why you put them on?
Like my teammates all knew what they were, but there were some staff members that were kind of like, what kind of glasses are those? Or what are those glasses? And I had to explain to them that they're Cartier and all that stuff. But mainly everybody knew, like the media knew pretty much automatically. I mean, it's their job. They do a lot of stuff like that. So it was cool.
Yeah, because they texted me the picture right away because we watched the bowl game and then we did like a little post game show for you guys, and we did a little pre-deal, and so I didn't see that right away because I was doing some stuff, but then I was like, oh, that's dope because like being able to do that in Detroit, like people don't really understand that. But when you look at, and before we get out of here, I got a couple quick ones for you. But when you look at this upcoming season, what is your expectation, like personally for you and then for your team? Because you're going into your sophomore season. This is the season to really just put your stamp on it. I know staying healthy is one of them, but is there something personally you're like, this is what I want to do, whether it's, I want to be the captain, or I want everybody, I want big moments, or whatever it might be. And what's your expectation for the team when you look at the schedule? Because I know you can't do this. I know PJ never likes to do this, but I can look at this schedule and I can say, I know that's 5 to 6 wins right there. And then these other ones, you gotta try to just dominate early to stay ahead of these really good teams. But what is your expectations, or what have you put on your, vision board for this season?
I'd say the biggest thing for a team aspect is I think that our biggest thing is I think we need to just play good on all 3 platforms of football, special teams, offense, defense. I think that everything needs to be firing on all cylinders. Something that we've been working on. That's our biggest goal, is just to fire on all cylinders and play some sound football. So that's the biggest goal for the team and for myself. Honestly, I think that I just want to be me, just BDT and just make plays when they're there, take what they give us. And I'd say like a stat goal that I have is I want to try to get 1,000-yard plus.
Okay.
That's something that's big for me. I think that'd be a great accomplishment, and and really just it'll set me up for the years to come. So I think that will be a good opportunity to do it this year, especially against the competition that we do have this year. I feel like those will be a clean 1,000 yards. There won't be any asterisks next to that 1,000 yards or anything like that, just because of the competition level that we have this year.
So, Darius, I know you guys got a new quarterback, Max Brosmer. Minnesota, you weren't here for this, but Minnesota had Tanner Morgan forever. I know Tanner's still around helping out. And then you guys had Ethan Kalagmanis, and now you have Max Brosmer transferring in. He knows he has 1 year, and I saw that you guys got a chance to travel with him and kind of hang out and get to know him with some of the key guys on the offense. But what was that trip like?
That trip was fun. We did a lot of stuff on the board. We had a lot of opportunities to go out on the boat and just do fun stuff out, get on jet skis, things like that. And also we got some field work in. But the biggest thing was just it was cool to see the guys coming together. He brought us all together and kind of made the offense a little bit closer than we even are right now. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and I know that's good. I mean, I'm excited to see because I've heard he's really accurate. Get definitely different from what we've seen in Minnesota. And I know for the biggest thing is like the Gophers, because they've told me this too, is like we don't want to show anything to anybody until it's time. And that was the reason for like the spring football game being canceled and not being viewed by the fans and so on and so forth. I know I was around for some stuff, but I know we were told not to say stuff about the offense, so I'm not going to even say it. But I'm excited to see it because I am a big offensive-minded guy, and I love after the first game even being able to break down the film moving forward and explain it to people and explain it to the media, fans, and when we do our pregame show. But I'm really excited for that. But when you think about Max Brosmer on the field, because I know you got to spend time what in the huddle about him kind of gives you confidence going into the season?
I think that he just has that big leadership aura to him. He's just a big leader. He's kind of in command of everything, keeping everything running. He's like the head coach on the field as it should be. So he kind of just brings a different feel to the game just with his leadership.
Yeah, and the last one before we get out of here, man. I know a lot of people saw it. If you haven't seen it, man, check out Darius Taylor's story about his dad. Spice Adams is one of my best friends, grew up with him. His father had got out of prison a while ago. I know your dad was incarcerated, but what is that like, that relationship with your dad, having to, keep that sometimes in the back of your mind, but also move forward with life? And I know he's probably talked to you about it as well. There's an article, I think the Pioneer Press did it, on you and your father as well. But how is that kind of like, what have you used to grow from that, that life lesson?
I'd say I think that obviously it's taught me different situations, not to put myself into certain situations.
Yeah.
But it's also, like I said earlier in the interview, it's giving me some perspective on I'm not going through the worst things every day, or I'm not in the worst situation possible when I'm going through certain things. I think that it's also taught me a lot, like just as a man, how my father is still in my life and being a father, even though the circumstances that he is in, it's something that kind of motivates me and like keeps me thinking to be a good father one day, or just be a true man to my family and still try to provide no matter the circumstances I'm in, or just keep fighting for those different opportunities to better the family. I think that he's doing a good job of just being there and I'm having someone to talk to, even though he's not able to mentor me necessarily in the way that I need it for the football aspect of things, but just as like a life thing and decisions I should and shouldn't make. He's definitely been there and been really big in that situation.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I'm looking forward to the season. Definitely going to have to make sure I connect you on the sidelines because I know before, I would walk by you guys, but I usually don't just come up to guys unless I really, really know them. And so I'm glad we got a chance to do this because I'm looking forward to this season. I'll be around in the summer, but I'm definitely going to be there at those home games, down on the sideline before the game and pregame warm-up and XYZ. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Darius Taylor. Coming up next, we got the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Sam's going to join us. We're going to put Darius in the hot seat and see how he does. Because one of the questions, I want to know who he thinks the best 4 running backs in Gopher history are. You guys can be surprised with this answer. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors. Well, now it's time for the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Take it away, Sam.
All right, Darius and Ron, we're going to start out with Gophers running backs all time. Darius, obviously, you're trying to get your face on the Gophers Mount Rushmore of running backs, but do you have one of your own of all-time Gophers RBs from the past? And Ron, I want the same from you. Let's start with Darius.
For that, I'd say not in any specific order, like Lawrence Maroney, Mo. I'd say DT, Daryl Thompson.
Oh yeah.
And then can I put myself on there, or I gotta put someone else?
Yeah.
You put yourself on there?
Yeah.
Oh, then me, because I'm making my way.
So for me, like I like your answers, and I think you forgot about Marion Barber, but here's where I go with it. I'm gonna go, or maybe you didn't. You left them off the list. I'm gonna go in no order either. But if I had to go order, I would probably go. That'd be tough. I'll probably go Lawrence, Daryl Thompson, and then Marion. And the reason for me and Marion is Lawrence Maroney and Marion did something that no other college football running backs had ever done, which is multiple 1,000-yard seasons together. And that's ridiculous when you think about that, because back then it was Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams. It was the two kids from Alabama. And then, of course, it was the Gophers. And the Gophers, of course, being in the Big Ten, those guys being in the SEC, they got kind of like they didn't take them as serious. But when you look at the NFL, how those guys all panned out, Marion and Maroney end up having better careers than those guys as far as their duos went. So I got to go Marion. For my fourth, and this is a tough one. So for Mo, it's longevity because he got all those extra years. And I struggle with that one because there was also Gary Russell, who went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was before them. He also was a part of a duo 1,000-yard running back deal. You can go all the way back to like the black and white days. I know, some people do that, but I do want to say that, like, I like when I looked at Darius Taylor playing this past season, I got a chance to do the pregame show, the PJ Flex show. So being a former Gopher, I love watching your game. And I would say that I'd say in the next 3 years, 2 to 3 years, Darius Taylor will be on that Mount Rushmore. But as a freshman, man, you got to earn it, bro. You got to earn it. But I will say, like, you had one of the best freshman seasons. You had one of the best, like, college football seasons, barring injury. Probably would have been the top. And so I definitely got to put you up there. But Mo Ibram, I would say he probably does kind of put it because there's Rodney Smith. There's a bunch, but yeah, Mo would be in there right now, and then I would definitely put you in there as the up and coming honorable mention to knock one of those guys off because that's how it goes. That's how guys see it. But when you think about one thing, I did want to say, how much are you trying to get into the passing game as a running back? Because that's where Marion kind of set himself different from Maroney, as he was willing to run a lot of those screens. Where are you at with your screen game?
Honestly, in my opinion, that's what I want to be doing.
Okay.
I know you guys probably know about my receiving background, so that's always been big, catching the ball. I don't drop many balls, so like getting in the passing game is definitely a goal of mine. So
okay. Well, that's where I'll say then. You get the passing added. I think that adds you as that dual threat running back that can definitely put you up there on the top 4 of the Gopher history. But Sam, what you got next?
Yeah, we talk a lot of hoops. Ron and I do, Darius, and we were debating this on Friday, so we got to throw this question at you. Old school or new school hoopers in a 3-on-3 game, who wins? LeBron, Curry, and Durant, or Jordan, Magic, and Larry Bird? They're going to 21, playing by 1s and 2s, new school or old school?
I feel like new school would win just because they like the old school guys couldn't handle the style of play nowadays. Now the new school guys couldn't handle the tougher basketball back then, but the new style of shooting that ball and like just the sheer size of like KD and the way that he moves or is able to move, I don't think that like Larry Bird could handle something like that.
Yeah, you know what? And I got to give it to you. Like I love Jordan. I love Magic and Bird, but Magic and Bird for me are the outliers of being able to handle LeBron and KD. I think Steph and Jordan, like Steph can't handle Jordan in the post, but Steph moves around well and can shoot. He can back up as far as he needs to shoot the 3. If you switch off and also Magic's on him, Larry Bird's on him, same thing. He's going to move around in space. But I struggle with the bird. Like, you hit the nail on the head. The bird on the KD for me too. That was the one for me where I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. But I know when we played a lot of like hoops. I know PJ plays with you guys every once in a while. And he loves to show guys he can play horse and he can shoot. And, I don't know if he showed you his basketball highlights from high school. But when you think about your team, if you had to pick 3 players that you're like, you know what? These 3 football players can go face any 3 other football teams in the 3-on-3 contest. Who are your 3 top hoopers on the team?
I'd say Anthony Smith. He's big and good. I ain't gonna lie. He's athletic. Kendrick Lanier. He can shoot. And I'd say like a sneaky good guy is like Tony Nelson.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good.
And so if you had to then go in the locker room and you're like, because I know you've seen these on Twitter and Instagram, if your life depended on 3 guys and you're like, I know these guys are going to miss, or you can win $1 million if these 3 guys just absolutely are trash in basketball and miss shots, who are the 3 trash guys on your team that you're like, I know these dudes going to win me $1 million?
I'd say Quinn Carroll, Ariante.
Hating on the O-line.
I'm about to say.
And I'd probably say like Theo Randall.
Okay. I mean, Ariante Ursary and Quinn Carroll are going to be the reason why you go for 2,000 yards. Like,
that is true. But they don't play basketball.
I love it. So that's a little audible. I always love to throw a little Omaha in there, get a little audible in. But Sam, what you got last?
Yeah, simple one. Darius, what are you most looking forward to in the upcoming college football season?
The biggest thing I'm looking forward to is, one, just having the opportunity to play this schedule. We play a lot of good talent in the Big Ten, and I feel like it's just a good opportunity to showcase where I am, and it'll show me personally where I line up against, like they say, like better competition, as they say. I feel like it's just a good opportunity as a team to do big things. I mean, it'll be a fun year. I mean, we're going all over the country. We get to go to the West Coast, so that'll be all fun. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm most excited for.
And for me, like covering the team, doing a pregame show, like I'm looking really forward to talking a little, because I know Deshaun Foster, he's been on our show, head coach for UCLA. He and I got drafted together in 2002. So he's been on the show. I've talked to Deshaun about it, when he was a running backs coach, now head coach. He talked about recruiting and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. Penn State, because Penn State comes back to Minnesota again, and that's been some ridiculous games against Minnesota and Penn State since 1999 when we knocked them off when they were number 2. Spice, still talking about it, bro. We killed y'all. But when I'm gonna name off some games for you real quick. And I know one, and I'm thinking I hope this is one. But when I name some games other than Michigan, because you're going to Michigan, so I know you're excited to go back home. Because I remember when I went back home for the first time to play at Michigan at the big house, it was fun, and I got to score a touchdown. I got to shut the crowd up for a little bit, so I was excited about that. But when you look at Rhode Island, Nevada, Iowa, USC, UCLA, Illinois, Maryland, Rutgers, Penn State, and Wisconsin, out of those teams, other than Michigan, what jumps, like what's, and you kind of say West Coast, but what jumps out like right away? Like, oh, I'm looking forward to that team.
I'd say the Iowa game,
okay,
or UCLA, because we're going over to the West Coast. But with the Iowa game, I'd say, I just love like just the nostalgia of the rivalry. I respect that rivalry a lot. It's fun. We all know like the history of, even with just the Coach Fleck era, how we haven't won many games in there, but last year we got one, so it'll be cool to like play them again after we coming off the win. And yeah, that's probably one that I'm really excited about. Yeah.
And when you think about Iowa, like I know if say you get put back there on punt return or something, are you ready to not do the fair catch? Like, is there anything that you're thinking of when people are talking about the fair catch, or you're like, you know what, I already know what not to do?
I mean, we're always taught in practice like about the rules, so I mean, we all know as returners not to do that. It's kind of something like we got called last year a few times for the same thing. Not to that magnitude. I understand the situation is what caused the uproar. Unfortunate situation, but I mean the rule is the rule.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Darius Taylor. That's Sam Extra, the producer that does it all. And thank you guys for joining us today on the Ron Johnson Show. Remember, make sure you go on YouTube and subscribe. Just takes an email address. Subscribe 24/7. You can get all of our shows as Vikings, Wild, Wolves, Lynx, Gophers. And of course, we are going to be there for training camp. It's coming, people. So make sure you guys are dialed in. I recently ran into CJ Ham. I was talking to Adam Thielen. I got a chance to catch up with JJ McCarthy. They're all ready for training camp. So make sure you're there because we're going to take you every step of the way. Again, I'm Ron Johnson. I want you guys to have a great week.